ħanadussa għad-dinja ta' l-arti marzjali. L-arti marzjali ħafna drabi narawhom fil-films, miftakar ta' kont żgħir kien hemm Karate Kid li kien suċċess kbir u anke għamlu xi ħareġ sequel tiegħu. Però immorru oltre minn hekk, l-arti marzjali mhumiex biss il-mossa li tagħmel biex tiddefendi lek innifsek jew nkella biex tattakka l xi ħadd jekk hemm bżonn mhux hekk. Immur daqsxejn iktar oltre minn hekk. U magħna llum għandna espert illi miegħu ħanitkellmu bl-Ingliż, Master Wallace. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome on Lodwa Taiba.
Thank you very much.
Can you say it Lodwa Taiba?
Lodwa Taiba.
Yes, okay.
I was trying yesterday.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning. Well, let's focus a bit on your relationship with martial arts. I refer to you as master. What does that mean?
A master, basically, I mean, you start off in your career going through the colored stages, and it's basically an introduction to the martial arts world. Then what happens is once you get to your first dan black belt, it's like you've mastered your basics, you know. After that, you go on to your second dan, then your third dan, you know, and this takes many, many years. This could take like 9, 10,
Okay,
12 years.
What's your classification?
Now my classification is fifth dan.
Fifth dan, so
Fifth.
it's like you're a black belt for 5 times, kind of.
Exactly, yes, kind of. But the criteria set for a master belt is that you are mentally disciplined, and you have to show demonstrations of this within the association that you're in. Not just mental discipline, that you've got the internal qualities of a martial artist. So it's not just that you go out, you get easily irritated, you know.
Of course.
You've got certain training camps that you go on abroad where you do get tested through this. You know, these training camps can be like 16 hours of training, mentally, you know, I mean, and it reflects times in your life. For example, everyone has big issues in their life one time or another. And the martial arts tests you on this. It puts you through so much mental stress within a weekend training camp that it shows you that martial arts and life is you know, it's bound in one. You know, you go through hard times in life like you go through hard times in martial arts, and that's the way it is. You know, it's how you deal with it.
Martial arts, during the introduction, I'm sure you knew what I was saying, what I was speaking about. I refer to Karate Kid and such movies, you know, where we see always a story of a young kid. Most of the time there's a situation which is not so nice, and then the plot is almost always the same in such movies, yes? Then he meets with his master, and then he learns karate or whatever martial art or style of martial art it is in the movie, and then insomma he wins something at the end. But what I really wanted to speak to you about during this interview is the balance between, or the correlation between martial arts and life, just like what you were mentioning right now.
Okay.
What are the basics in martial arts? Is it true that discipline is, for example, one of them?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can break it down into many different pieces, martial arts. I mean, one of the biggest things that we have in martial arts is etiquette. And what we do is we practice etiquette from the time we start the class to the end. And what happens is politeness is contagious. And that's the ultimate aim of martial arts. And you can see that in the beginning when a student comes. You know, a student comes in quite rough, like a rough diamond, you know. And then after a while, you start polishing off and you start realizing that the traits and the etiquette that they are learning from within the gym where they train at, they are taking it outside in the world with them.
How do you achieve that? And could you give perhaps some practical examples?
Sure, I can do that. Okay, so basically for us, when we walk into our training hall represents a place that's going to make us a lot better. You know, it's going to improve it's character building, it's going to improve our internal qualities. So what we do, we bow to the hall, and that bow is a sign of trust between us and all the people within the hall that we're training with, you know. Everyone gets taught that when a new student comes in, you know, the induction period is that they come in, you know, they learn how to bow correctly, they learn how to say yes sir, no sir, you know, certain things that for some people in the company that could be higher up, for them it's a bit like, hold on, like, you know, it takes them a while to get used to it, but once they realize that everyone's an equal, everyone, you know, everyone here on earth, you know, needs certain conditioning and certain aspects brought out within them, then we start working together, you know, and you see that everyone comes together. Weekend training camps, you know, where we all wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, we do this regular in Malta as well, you know, we go out camping and stuff, but, you know.
Are your students young students, or is martial arts open to any age?
No, you know, martial arts changes the life of many people. You know, we've had students walk in at the age of 50, you know, and after 5 years start testing for their black belt, you know, and they've realized, you know, we ask them to hand an essay in as they're going for their black belt. And when you read their life story and how martial arts has changed them, you know, it's an emotional period, you know, because you build a relationship with your students. You know, you start understanding their life, you know, and what they've been through, and you know, you start trying to contribute into the change and the build of each student. You know, it's not just you come in, you get your gloves on, you whack the bag for a bit, you know. It is, you build relationships, and long-standing relationships as well, you know. And that's the thing about martial arts, where people come in the hall, they could be from any country in the world, that when you walk outside, people wouldn't even look at them. But when they're inside the training hall, it's like everyone's an equal. If they fall over, they help them up. And that's why I wish the world would just be one big martial arts hall, you know, where everyone can achieve this kind of...
What about, previously you referred to self-control as being also one of the main pillars of a martial artist.
That's it.
Again, could you give us some examples? And I'm not referring just to, of course, someone who's trained very well, like you or your students, could easily punch someone like this. But I'm not referring to that type of self-control. I'm also referring to self-control experience during the day. Right now, I think going through this rough patch, generally speaking, the whole world, you know, we have a lot of people passing through a difficult time or difficult phase in their life. And there are various moments when one tends to either, you know, would like to just say, okay, this is where I'm stopping, I'm giving up, or else be angry about the situation. So that's where self-control most of the time comes in. How do you achieve that through martial arts?
Okay, Gordon, can you imagine appreciating every breath that you have? You know, can you imagine appreciating every thought that you have in your mind and weighing up, you know? This is called mindfulness. And in the martial arts, what we practice is a lot of mindfulness. So what we try to do, we try to appreciate whatever situation we're in. We try to appreciate that it's not just us. And then you start offering rather than looking at your own story. And once you start looking outside your own story, then you start realizing it's not so bad on you. I mean, you've got many countries in the world that are going through much worse than COVID, you know, starvation, certain other things. And then you look back at your situation, you say, look, just because I've got to wear a mask, sanitization, maybe have a swab test here and there, you know. So you build a discipline from yourself that you turn things outside of yourself, you know, and then you start looking at the world in a different way. And that's what mindfulness is, you know. You can be driving down the street, you know, someone could be, you know, driving up to you or bibbing at you or something, and you're just mindful. You say, look, you know, it's not your initial reaction, you know.
Yes, yes. In fact, I was going to ask, it's not a natural reaction, because sometimes the first impulse is to react.
That's it, that's it. It becomes, you know, as a martial artist, you start realizing, you know, you can't just be kicking and punching and going to the gym and stuff. There's more to it. And when you start realizing that, you know, you have to be controlled as a human, you know, you start looking deeper then, and then you start asking yourself, why? And then you start realizing that mindfulness as a concept is appreciating every action that is done. I mean, this morning on the way here, you know, I stopped, I let a guy pass, the guy smiled, you know, I smiled back, you know, and that's contagious, you know. He then walks on, smiles at another person, and that's how things are changed, you know.
Yes, sometimes it can. I think we all experience someone who early in the morning, I don't know, is a bit of a pest.
Yes.
And it does affect your mood in some way.
Yes.
By the time you arrive to your office or wherever, you're already affected by that. So I think it works also the other way around, like, just like you're saying.
And I think the thing is, you got to realize that tomorrow you're going to argue with someone, or next week an argument's going to come. Someone's going to do something, you know. Someone's going to either cut you up on the street. Yes. It's going to happen. So if we know it's predictable, we can already prepare ourselves and say, look, why?
Yes, that's
you know, why should we react to all these things that are definitely going to happen? You know, and I think that's the change that we need to make. And that's what you learn in your first day in the martial arts class. That look, you know, there's people above you no matter what position you are in life. You know, there's people above you, there's people that have been here for years. It might be someone 10 years younger than you, and they're telling you, look, do push-ups, work on this, work on that. And you're like, but then you start realizing that we are all just the same, you know.
Why is martial art considered an art? We have referred to the artist, the martial artist, even in this conversation.
Okay, so if I walk into an art studio and I want to learn how to draw, the first thing that I'm going to become is someone just learning how to draw. I'm not an artist yet. Once you craft yourself into it, and once you start learning a discipline, I mean, you've got combat sports and you've got martial arts. Martial means military. So to be a martial art, your style has to have gone through warfare, you know, either Second World War or something, and your style has to be of used within that art, you know. So Tang Soo Do was used within the war, you know. So combat sports are like kickboxing, an amazing sport, but it's a combat sport. It's not a martial art; it's a sport. You've got Taekwondo. Taekwondo is primarily a sport base. But prior to the Second World War and during the Japanese occupation between 1909 and 1945 over Korea, it was more of an art-based form, which is why it ends in the prefix of Do. Now, any art that ends in Do, like Judo, Karate Do, Aikido, Tang Soo Do, Taekwondo, means it has to have a philosophy behind it. So you're not just going to go in there and kick and punch. You've got to learn their philosophy, their historical events, and everything, you know. So that's what changes between a combat sport and an art. And sometimes it's the motivation behind the technique. Like for Taekwondo nowadays, the motivation would be to score a point, where a lot of the traditional martial arts would be, you know, to really defend yourself. One blow, put someone down so you can escape. You know?
You specialize in karate, yes?
Tang Soo Do.
Okay.
Korean karate.
How come? What's your connection with this art?
Okay.
Is it common in Malta? Is it something? Because when I was younger, I'm 44 years old. So when I was younger, I remember there was a priest in Vgura, if I'm not mistaken, who used to teach karate to kids who wanted to learn. I think his main aim was that of getting kids off the street and gather them in some place, and that's where most of them met the first idea of discipline and self-control. So I appreciate that side, and we did see positive results from that experience. But it was more seen as, you know, let's go to train and to be ready just in case we get in a fight. Is it popular today in Malta? And again, what's your connection with this martial art?
Okay, so Tang Soo Do, I brought Tang Soo Do to Malta. I mean, Tang Soo Do is all around the world. It's in America, very popular. You know, Chuck Norris is Tang Soo Do, Van Damme is Tang Soo Do, Michael J. White, Tang Soo Do. You got a lot of popular stars that are Tang Soo Do through and through. But what happened, I mean, Malta is such a small island, there wasn't Tang Soo Do here before. So in 2000, it was my aim to bring Tang Soo Do to Malta and to spread Tang Soo Do to a place it never was. You know, so I brought Tang Soo Do here. I started training when I was 4, martial arts, all different styles, you know, growing up in southeast London. But then I stuck to Tang Soo Do, which I started at the age of 14, now 41.
You're younger. Finally, what's the interest from the locals, from the general public? Do you get I don't know, loads of students, or does it change over time?
No. We in Mtafa we got around 60 students there. In Zaytoun we got around 25, and in Ashar we've got just under 10. You know, we keep our student base, and the reason why, even during COVID and stuff, we were doing Zoom sessions online. You know, the relationships that we got with our students are so deep and so close that that we don't really lose them. But we've got a good student base, you know, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of them as well. You know, they really put their heart into the lesson, which is a nice thing.
It's obvious that there's a connection between learning, of course, after all, you're learning an art, which requires one to be fit, and the fact that you're working alongside other people. Do students learn from each other? Are they given the opportunity to learn from each other's experiences in the martial art?
Yes. I mean, teaching, once you get close to black belt stage, you start learning how to teach. And the reason why teaching is a higher stage of learning. I mean, you mentioned fitness there. I mean, in martial arts, we we keep fit to train Tang Soo Do, so we don't train Tang Soo Do to keep fit, and that's an element that all the students have learned how to spread between themselves, that no matter what they're doing in life, you know, so yeah, they share their skills, they share their philosophies, and it's a lovely thing to see, you know. I mean, everyone working together.
That's a very interesting topic. How can people contact you, just in case they're interested? Do you have a Facebook page?
Yeah, we've got a Facebook page called Martial Arts Malta Tang Soo Do. Obviously, they can contact me on there, and feel free to come along and try for a few lessons.
Because I'm sure that as a sport, as a way of life, I think people look at some point in their life towards martial arts. Not everyone, of course, does the actual step, but I think it's one of those items in life where everyone at some point looks at it in an interesting manner. So one might meet martial arts, we mentioned movies, but also through a friend or through Facebook, through social media, etc. So I think it's a place where it's something people look into, but then kind of stop because of doubts, or I don't know, afraid of being hurt or something like that. It's not immediately a contact sport, no. So one doesn't just come there to.
We're very controlled. We're very controlled, you know. And I think as you get experience in martial arts, your technique needs to be controlled. You know, when you do get beginners in, it's very they're inducted very slowly into the world of martial arts. You know, and that's important, you know. It's very scary walking into a hall where everyone's shouting, punching and kicking, and you're looking at everyone, but very, very soon they become like your family, you know, and everyone's looking out for you. And you can feel that family atmosphere as soon as you walk into. Some places don't have it, some places do have it. You know, some places are there just to train fighters and get them into, but other places that, you know, you can feel it as soon as you walk in, you know. If something feels right, it's like a culture. Culture is defined by the attitudes and norms of the people within any said place. You'll feel that when you walk in a hall, you know, and that's the nice thing about martial arts.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I also wish you a good day with a smile. Yes?
Yes.
Mela, mekkenna intervista ma' Master Wallace, tkellimna dwar l-arti marzjali, beda jispjegalna kif hemm konnessjoni diretta ma' kif wieħed jgħix il-ħajja tiegħu u naturalment dak li jitgħallem fil-post fejn jieħdu training, u tkellimna ħafna dwar ukoll bilanċ ta' mindfulness, ġifiri kif wieħed iżomm kontroll fuq ir-reazzjonijiet tiegħu f'sitwazzjonijiet differenti. Anke meta forsi naġbuha fuq xi ħaġa li wieħed jieħu pass lura jkollu l-kapaċità li jara lil nnifsu f'dik is-sitwazzjoni, però f'kuntest aktar ikbar u allura ikollu aktar kontroll fuq ir-reazzjoni tiegħu. Naħseb li huwa suġġett interessanti ħafna u wieħed ta' min jesplora aktar.